Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because I have somebody on the show today who's going to give us a really important perspective of the things that are actually going to enable us to be successful in what has now become the near future. Steve Brown was born in the UK, where he lived until he was 30, spending time near Nottingham, Oxford, and in Manchester, where he went to university. In 1997, he moved to the States, and he became a U.S. citizen in 2008. He has one younger sister, and his parents are still together and living in self-isolation after 54 years of marriage. And for those of you who are aware of the time of this recording, we know we're dealing with the coronavirus thing. Okay, so his dad started his career as a physics professor and dedicated his life to higher education. In 2008, his dad was awarded a CBE, which is a commander of the British Empire, at Buckingham Palace in 2008 in recognition for his lifetime service to education. Back in the 1970s, when Steve was a kid, computers were a rarity, and his dad, a university physics professor at the time, would bring computers home from work, and Steve quickly became fascinated with them. Even at a young age, he could imagine their future potential, and he decided to focus his career on the computing industry. Steve earned both bachelor's and master's degrees in microelectronic systems engineering from the University of Manchester and embarked on a 30-year career with Intel Corporation. His eclectic Intel career spanned everything from engineering and manufacturing to marketing, communications, and management. His career goal was to develop a broad set of skills as possible by taking on a wide range of roles. Most of the jobs he took were forward-looking, and he spent half of his career in strategic planning roles of one kind or another. Steve rose to become Intel's chief evangelist and one of Intel's 2 futurists responsible for helping to build Intel's long-range strategic plans. Now, as an independent futurist, Steve advises organizations around the world on how technology will reshape their business in the coming years. And he works with a range of industries, but specializes in the future of healthcare and manufacturing. Inspired by his father's career, Steve works with the business and education sectors to help them prepare for the future of work, a world of high automation and worker augmentation. Steve helps business leaders to understand the business value of key technologies like artificial intelligence, sensors, augmented reality, robotics, blockchain, 5G, and other new tech. One of Steve's proudest legacies is his best-selling book, The Innovation Ultimatum, How 6 Strategic Technologies Will Reshape Every Business in the 2020s, which he hopes will inspire businesses to innovate their way out of the current recession. And Steve joins us today from Portland, Oregon, where he lives with his wife, Kristen. No kidlets, no dogs, no cats, no responsibility. Steve Brown, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
I will do my very best.
I know you will. Now you said no responsibilities, but I'm sure your wife is a major responsibility for you, right?
She is delightful.
That's right. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you share what your current passion is so that we get to know you even better?
Professionally, my current passion is thinking about the future of healthcare. How would we redesign a healthcare system using the technologies that we now have in front of us, so that if a pandemic comes, let's say again in the 2030s, we're much better prepared, and that we are able to use that technology to help us get through it in a completely different way than we're having to experience at this time. So that's currently what's front of mind for me. And then privately, I'm just drinking a lot of wine to get through this.
Well, definitely a lot of calming aids are necessary. Now, and you bring up a really interesting point when you say the next one, because there will be, right? I think we
probably, yes.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate reality, but it's also one of the side effects of having a more global world, right? Is these things just move like they've never had the opportunity to do before. But one of the things that we do also know is true is that in times like this, some of this futuristic look actually gets accelerated, doesn't it?
Yeah, anytime that you put stress on a system or you put constraint on things, it tends to lead to innovation. I'll give you a couple of examples. World War II was not a fun time to be around. It was extreme circumstances for millions of people, billions of people around the planet. But out of that stressful, horrible, difficult time came incredible levels of new innovation. So modern air travel came out of World War II, the development of the jet engine, pressurized cabins, radar, air traffic control. All of that came out of World War II. Now, those things may have happened anyway, but they were accelerated because of World War II. Also coming out of World War II, you had penicillin, which was discovered in 1928, but it wasn't productized and created at scale until the Normandy landings in 1944. And then, of course, rockets. The V-2 rocket from Werner von Braun didn't come out until World War II, and that led to the space age and satellites and GPS. There would be no Uber without Werner von Braun. So lots of good things come out of really difficult times, and they can be long-lasting things. So when the men were sent off to fight, the women came out of the homes and went into the offices and factories. And the idea at the time was, well, when the men come back, the women will go back into the homes. That didn't happen, right? Women tended to like their emancipation and they wanted to keep working. And that added a huge economic boost and created a massive amount of wealth in the economy, because now you had two people working in many families. So, and that became a long-lasting change that is here today. So when you get this sort of crucible of pressure, it can lead to massive innovation, and constraint does as well. So if you think about the way that designers, engineers, artists sometimes operate when they need inspiration, they will constrain themselves. So you might say, well, how do I design this image, this poster with two colors? Only two colors. How could I do that? Think about this thing, right? Steve Jobs thought, how could I design a phone with just one button? And eventually it was no buttons, right? And that led to a complete breakthrough. Now it is, how do I service my customers using digital channels? Because my constraint is, I can't touch them anymore. I can't have them come to premises. So how can I build around that constraint? So during times of constraint and difficulty like this, we're going to see incredible innovation flourish. And that's something I'm very passionate about. Because the good news is we are in a decade of some difficulty here, but we're at the beginning of a decade where 6 technologies are going to mature all at the same time. And they give innovators like a new canvas from which to paint, incredible new designs, innovate products, services, develop new channels, service customers in new ways. There is a lot of good news that will come out of this, despite it right now feeling like an incredibly dark and difficult time.
Well, and I'd also like to add a couple things to what you were saying. Is the contact center industry was actually created out of World War II, because the communications infrastructure for the U.S. military was based in Omaha, Nebraska, and some of our first contact centers were from and using that communications array, and that's where the industry was started. So when we start looking at, yet the next wave and the next change, all of what you're referring to and all this digitization is really what's core right now. And so contact centers at this current date are struggling in a couple different ways. Some now have to really support the ability to have remote workers that they didn't have to do before. And then you have a lot of organizations that may have had, say, for example, brick and mortar operations, and now they have to, increase, what they had from a, customer service and contact center perspective. And it's not that they can just add more seats in their office. They have to make them remote. So there's a whole lot of influx happening. But when we start looking at all of this change, and you and I talked about this off mic, is there's a whole lot of chaos that goes on. There's a whole lot of, oh my gosh, what do I do? And then it's like, okay, now I need to get good. But I really need to scrap the model. And part of my thinking is the model that I had is just not going to work going forward. And for a leadership group, in order to really drive, as you say, drive that change, there's 5 things that they need to really focus in on. And they need to be crystal clear about them. And you say purpose, vision, mission, values, and then strategies of the company. Give us a little bit of your lens on those.
We're moving into an era. My company, I have this little company that I operate. It's called Possibility and Purpose, LLC. It's just me, just a company of one. But the reason I called it that is that because of the technologies that I write about in the book, these 6 technologies, artificial intelligence, blockchain, we'll talk about them more later. They are creating this incredible landscape of possibility. And the challenge now is to figure out what you're not going to do, because these technologies enable you to do lots and lots of different things, and to enable you to play in new markets you didn't play in before, to create products in new ways, to support your employees in different ways. I mean, there's just so much possibility out there. The challenge now is to figure out, what am I going to do? How do I focus? What's my path forward? And what am I not going to do? And to make those decisions, you need to have crystal clear purpose, to know what your company is about. What's the humanistic purpose that you serve for people? Know what that is, communicate that clearly to all your employees, and do it relentlessly, because they won't hear it often enough. Because as they're making decisions, if they, and your vision drops out of your purpose. So your vision is, if you are successful in delivering against your purpose statement, and your purpose could be, for Coca-Cola, it's to refresh people, right? For Harley Davidson, it's to provide the rebel experience, right? There's a purpose that they have, and everything they do is about that purpose. Companies, by the way, that have a crystal clear, well-articulated, well-communicated purpose have better financial results than those that do not. And that has been demonstrated many, many times. If you want the data on that, there's a great book called Firms of Endearment, which I recommend. But companies with a crystal clear purpose, allow them to cut through this huge landscape of possibility and decide what to do. To communicate that vision to employees really clearly, that's, if we're successful in our purpose, this is where it's going to take us. This is what the world will look like if we are ultimately successful. For Coca-Cola, one of their sort of unstated visions, not publicly stated, but the way they think about it is a Coca-Cola within arm's reach of every person on the planet. That tells you that that company is about distribution. And ultimately, they're trying to reach that almost impossible goal, but it tells every employee in the company what they need to be doing. So it helps decision-making in the company by giving employees a North Star that they can look at and say, I'm making this decision. Does it help us get closer to our vision or not? Is this consistent with the purpose of the company? No? Okay, then let's not do it. So it really gives you that strategic clarity. And then the mission also falls out of the purpose. It says, what are we going to do every day? How do we show up? And then values really define how you're going to do that. What are the things you're going to do? How are you going to comport yourself? How does your brand want to be perceived? How will your behaviors match against that brand? What are the values? Typically, it's the values of the founders of the company that are reflected in that. And really, it's 2 or 3 core things that you would not violate even if it would make you more money. That defines a true value. And people have, customer orientation, results orientation. Okay, you should all have that. What are the things that define you and make you different? And then the final one, strategic clarity. Really spending the time to think about, in order to execute our mission and fulfill our vision, what are the things we're going to do this year? And make it really clear. So you have all of those, put them together and communicate them passionately, clearly, over and over and over again. It's also important because as companies now go through what I think will be an accelerated phase of automation, COVID is going to accelerate automation efforts for lots of reasons we can get into. As you automate, you need to be really clear on what your purpose is, because when you're training AIs or training robots to take on tasks that were formerly done by humans, all of your purpose, your mission, vision, values need to be encoded into the way that those machines behave. Because now you're working on a blended workforce of humans and machines working together in teams. Those machine teammates need to be as aligned with your purpose, vision, mission, and values as well. There was a lot of stuff, but that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, and as you were talking about that, I started thinking about something that you and I had chatted before we got on the interview, and is that we can easily make a mistake, though, of focusing on the whole aspirational elements of the questions that we must ask. And what I mean by that is, your friend Brian David Johnson said that we need to really ask when they were thinking about the future is two questions. And I think you did a very good job of explaining what is the future and what do we want to build. But we also have to be very clear, and you partially hit on this, is, what is the future that we want to avoid? So when we start talking about two things, focusing in on what we want to avoid and making sure that people don't swirl around and waste time, and us to not be aligned as an organization, what do we need to be aware of on that? And then also, one of the problems that is just inherently an issue with most organizations is that the head of the organization could be doing all the things from a crystal clear perspective that you're referring to, but then being able to connect the feet, is where the disconnection comes from, and it's a decapitation scenario. So if I'm a frontline leader, what do I need to do with all of these crystal clear things that are coming from up above to be able to get my people who are getting the work done on the front line to connect with it?
Yeah, no matter what your level in the organization, it is important that you role model all of the messages coming from above, that you continue to translate those into what does it mean for us? What does it mean for our team this week? What does it mean for us today? And if you have any questions, teammates, come to me. I will help clarify that for you. You, as a frontline manager, it is your job to translate and make it real for the people that work for you, and to get them excited about it, right? Help to be passionate about it. Explain to them why fulfilling the company's mission is important. Why is it important for people? You're not just making widgets. When I was at Intel, one of my jobs was I had this role called Chief Ambassador, which was to help employees in our factories understand what the chips that they made did. What did they make possible in the world? So, for them, it's just widgets on a manufacturing line, right? They're in their bunny suits in the fabs, in the fabrication facilities, making millions of chips. When you explain to them, oh, those chips are used in workstations to design the car that you drive. They are used by some of the most creative people on the planet at DreamWorks and Disney to create the movies that make your children or grandchildren beam from ear to ear. Right? When you make it real for people, why is what we do worthwhile? Right? How are we creating meaning for people in their lives? If you connect those dots, people show up with higher levels of engagement, passion, and consistently executing against strategy.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Because of what you're saying, I think it's also important that we focus in on what you're calling the 6 ways that future tech can be used to impact experiences. Because you talked about two things in that explanation. You were talking about a customer experience as well as an employee experience. And those 6 things that you mentioned is that we honor every customer as a unique individual. And I would dare to say customer means internal and external. You value everybody's time by creating frictionless experiences. You understand ultimate intent and create memorable moments. You design highly responsive business operations that coordinate human and machine intelligence. You create innovative products, services, experiences, and transformations that solve problems for people. And then you elevate human work. So when you start looking at the 6 ways that this tech can be used to impact experiences, which one of these or two stand out to you to be the most impactful?
Probably the last one. Let's hit that first. elevating human work, right? A lot of people, a lot of leaders, when they're looking at automation efforts, they look at it in a very short-term manner, which is, how do I reduce my labor costs? How do I improve efficiency? Which are important metrics. They have been historically important metrics. I can see why you would go there again. And there may be some things that are worth automating, and probably tasks that you want to automate because they're going to be much more efficient and you can do them more quickly, and maybe reduce your exposure to labor. But studies that have been done by researchers looking at automation efforts have revealed that that gives you some short-term gains, sure. But the medium to long-term gains are where you deploy technology as a way to lift up your employees, to support them and help them to do their jobs better. And there are many ways now that technology can be used to augment the talents and capabilities of humans. And that's the bang for the buck, to take away the boring tasks, the repetitive tasks, the dangerous tasks, and elevate the humans. And what I'm talking about here is, of course, physical augmentation. So in factories in Ford, they're using exoskeletons to help them when they're reaching upwards to be able to have extra strength. But beyond that, using artificial intelligence to augment the design capabilities of designers. I can give you a number of examples on that. Using artificial intelligence to boost our intuition. There are real estate agents who are using artificial intelligence to help them guess pretty accurately who might be in the market to sell their house soon. So they know who to reach out to and say, hey, remember me? Oh, we were about to sell our house. What perfect timing. Well, yeah, because an AI helped with that. So AI is going to be able to boost the capabilities of employees, and that, research shows, is the biggest bang for the buck versus just purely automating away tasks. So that's probably the most important of those. I think the second, using technology to innovate your products and services. Really using tech to completely reimagine your product line, to turn products into services, services into experiences, experiences into transformations, because you get paid incrementally more as you go up that ladder. Price Waterhouse did a study about jobs in the UK, and they estimate that 7 million jobs in the UK in the next 10, 15 years will be displaced by artificial intelligence. And that sounds like a pretty shocking number in a country of 55 million people. What they also say in that same report is that 7.2 million jobs will be created by AI in that same time frame. And their argument for that is as a result of heavy innovation in products and services, using AI to innovate products and services to create a huge set of new demand. So that's why I'd pick that as the second one, because as we go through this automation and augmentation transition, developing new products and services to stay ahead of your competition is going to be vital.
Well, and to be able to execute that, you talk about 9 key strategic decisions that you must drive in order to determine what your next steps are. And as you were talking about that, one of them that you mentioned, which is critically important, is a retraining strategy. And for me, when you start talking about a retraining strategy, it's not just in your organization, it's even looking down into the whole education system. And in the book, you talk about a lot of that as well. But other strategies that you need to focus in on is an automation strategy, a sensor strategy, augmentation strategy, employee engagement strategy, blockchain strategy, product and service innovation strategy, a data strategy, and security strategy. Now, I would dare to say when you start talking about all of these, of course, those jobs of leadership, to be crystal clear, all that has to be incorporated in a systematic approach. Mm-hmm. And so when I start looking at this forced environment that we're in now, I mean, I have chaos. I just need to survive. I am, really just having to see how I can get to tomorrow. How does that potentially affect or impact the need that, hey, I need to do all of these things, but I have to survive?
Yeah, I think in the short term, I mean, I've been thinking about the way we get through this current crisis in 3 steps. First step is do everything you can to make your employees safe and your customers as safe as possible. And I think we're mostly through that phase now. The second phase is, how do I survive? What do I need to do to triage the business? What plants do I need to close down, or what new channels do I need to quickly develop? If you're a restaurant, for example, how do I do delivery? How do I suddenly build a relationship with Grubhub? What do I need to do? What government grants are available? What employees can I keep on? How do I retain? What's my strategy to just get through the next few months while we're in this lockdown phase? Once we're through that second step, that second phase, then I think we can start to get into the headspace of, okay, we have a plan to get through. What's the world going to be like on the other side? How will the world be different in a, let's call it, post-COVID era, right? Because we're not going to go back to the way things were in December 2019. That's just not going to happen. There will be new normals, the same way that there were new normals created after World War II. What will those new normals be? We've just had a major shock event that has laid bare the fragility of modern life. And consumers are scared, and they are feeling out of control. They are going to want to reassert control on the other side of this. So we're moving to a world where consumers want to assert more control and have less trust. So what can businesses do to regain trust from consumers who've had that really shaken? So that's the sort of thing to think about. We're moving to a world which is probably more digital and less physical. What does that look like? What channels do you need to build? We're moving to a world which is perhaps more distributed and less centralized. We may see that it's smart to not have all your employees in one campus. Maybe they need to be more distributed, and then you've got to find ways to communicate and link them all together. So there's going to be lots of changes that we need to start thinking about pretty soon, so that we can capitalize on those changes and make sure that our businesses are responsive to those changes in the marketplace.
Okay, so we're moving out of this, right? And you talk about that there's a hierarchy of business goals for automation projects, and we're starting to make sense of this. We're starting to move forward, and you talk about several different things. So you talk about 5 or 6 factors that we need to focus in on. That's those human factors, outcomes, business capabilities, business results, and resources. So how do I go about adjusting to my new normal? Being able to figure out this way forward, work on the stability piece, work on the trust gain for employees and customers with what you have here in this hierarchy?
Well, big question. This is a chew gum and walk at the same time thing, right? We're going to have to take care of the short term. And the hierarchy I talk about is sort of more and more sophisticated levels of optimization for your business. So at the low level, it's optimizing resources. So think about it like a control loop, where I'm making a decision, do I do something or not? So the simple example I give in the book is for a sprinkler. It's a simple example, but I'm going to decide when to turn the sprinkler on and water the grass. I can do that on a timer, or I can put a moisture sensor in the soil and say, hey, the soil's already wet. I don't need to turn the sprinkler on today. Or I can get even more sophisticated and I can check the weather report. Okay, it's going to rain in 10 minutes, so why turn the sprinkler on now? What I'm doing there is I'm optimizing a resource, which is water, right? And that's a lot of optimizations and Internet of Things, technology implementations are built around managing resources. But my contention is we can go higher. And I think in this phase of, oh my God, we've got to survive, we're going to rightly focus on optimizing resources, whether it's labor, water, electricity, whatever the resources that my business uses, because we're going to be trying to control costs. As we want to try and come out of recession, because we're on our way into good recession here, the only way you get out of recession is not to save your way out of it. So focusing on that lower level of resources and managing resources only gets you so far. At that point, the way you get yourself out of recession is you invest and innovate your way out of recession. To me, you have to go higher up the hierarchy then. You need to look at the higher levels where you're starting to optimize for business results and for impact and for customer optimizations. The very highest level of that hierarchy you're talking about, which I go into the book in quite some detail, is happiness, creativity. How do I optimize for the creativity of my staff? How do I optimize for the happiness of my customers, right? If you're Disney, that's the thing you ultimately care about. How do you use technology to go from, bottom line stuff to top line stuff? That's really what it comes down. And in this phase, we're going to start at the bottom, and then the companies that can work their way up quicker are the ones that are going to sort of catapult themselves out of this recession sooner than others.
Well, in the book, I really like how you laid all this out, and it does help you really try to focus on the smaller elements that allows you to think your way rationally through these chaotic times. But from your perspective, what are some of the thoughts and encouragement that you have for, you say tomorrow's leaders, but I say now it's today's leader?
Yeah, I mean, we're all being tested as leaders right now. And this is the time that we all get to step up. I lead a company of one, but it doesn't matter how big your company is, what position you are in your company. If you choose to step up in this time, you are a leader. And we all need to be doing that. Simon Sinek defines leaders as saying that leaders need only one thing: followers, right? So if you are in a position where you see scared people, you see people who are not sure what to do, and you feel like you have something to say, stand up and be a leader. So I encourage everybody to be thinking now, not just about the short term. If you want to be a true leader, also start thinking about the medium and long term. At the same time, get smart on the types of technologies that can be, the tools at your disposal to help you imagine what the world will be like and what your business can be like a year from now, 2 years from now, and start planning towards that. You'll also find if you can help to lift up your employees. I mean, right now they're just, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. How do you lift them up, get them to see beyond that and say, okay, once this is all kind of past us, how do we rebuild? How do we build something that we can all be proud of? And I would say rally around that now, and inspire other people. Focus on inspiring other people and getting them excited about the world that will be.
Well, goodness be. I mean, all this requires inspiration. On the show, we love to focus in on that by looking at some of the quotes that our guests really enjoy and help to drive them and help them give them focus and all that. Is there a quote or two that you like that you can share?
It's really the one that I have been focusing on lately is from my former colleague and CEO of Intel, Craig Barrett. And he's put it very simply. And this was back in the early 2000s, after the dot-bomb period, where Intel and other tech companies were having a hard time. And he said, no company ever saves their way out of recession. You have to invest your way out of recession so that when the recession is over, you come out of it stronger than you went in. And that's the quote that has stuck with me most and given me the most comfort right now, to think that the companies that really have that genetic code of being innovators, that passion to innovate and the passion for their customers, and that's really where innovation comes from, is wanting to serve your customers better. The companies that have that will endure and come out of this stronger than ever. So that's the one that's been sort of most inspiring to me right now.
Well, and for me, thinking about that eclectic career that you've had at Intel and all those different roles that you played, I mean, I'm sure there's times where you also had to get over the hump to help you get through, certain times of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Is there a time where you've gotten over the hump that you can share?
That's a good question. I think there was one time when I was unsure where I needed to take my career next. And again, it was Craig Barrett, former CEO of Intel. I used to interview him on the sort of company videos. And we were chatting in the studio, in the TV studio before we went online. And I said, so I'm thinking about what I want to do next in my career. And I've got a few different directions, but I'm not really sure where I should go. And he just looked at me and said, Steve, follow your passion. Do the thing for you that you're passionate about. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about accolades. Do the thing that makes you want to come into work every day. And it was just me and him in a TV studio. That gave me the courage to follow a career path which has been, I haven't looked back. It's been fabulous. But you have to have that courage to say, I'm going to follow my passion and see where it takes me, rather than think, well, what's the smart thing to do? Because there's nothing worse than being trapped in a career that you are not passionate about. So that's probably the moment where I had the biggest sort of crisis of faith. And to have someone say, you can do whatever you want. You just do something that you're passionate about. And if you do that, you'll show up with all of you and you will be successful.
And all of the Fast Leader Legion hopes that you can continue to follow that passion. And we wish you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement, along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about An Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondmorale.com/better. All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Steve, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. And I'm going to ask you several questions. And your job is to give us robust, yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Steve Brown, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm going to give it my best shot.
All right. So what is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
COVID.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Oh, there's so much good stuff. Don't be trapped by your own identity, your own perception of identity. Allow yourself to see yourself as the way perhaps other people see you. And then you can step up to be that true leader.
And what is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
Well, the British accent doesn't hurt. Clarity of communication. Being able to take a complex topic or idea and convey it in a way that most people can understand.
And what do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Good storytelling skills. The ability to say something in a way that people will remember and act upon. And to me, ninja level storytelling skills are vital to that.
And what would be one book that you'd recommend to our Legion? It could be from any genre. Of course, we're going to put a link to the Innovation Ultimatum page as well.
Lately, I've really enjoyed The Master Algorithm. Thinking about how AI can solve problems. That's a really good one lately.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other information and bonuses all from today's show on Steve's show notes page, which you'll be able to find at fastleader.net/Steve Brown. Okay, Steve, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you could take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take them all. You can only take one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
It would be the knowledge that AI will eventually be the premium technology on the planet. Back then, AI was something that we talked about, and it was in a period where innovation on that had stalled and people kind of gave up. It would be lovely to know that it's worth sticking with it because it is probably as profound a technology and in terms of the impact on people's lives as electricity was an impact in our great-great-grandparents' lives. So I kind of wish I had known that then so I could become expert in that and stick with it. But that would be the one that I would take back, I think. It's a big deal.
Steve, I had fun with you today. How can the Fast Leader Legion connect with you?
You can find me on my website at boldfuturist.com. You can email me at steve@boldfuturist.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Steve Brown, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.